Hey, church family. It's good to just be with you again. I just want to take a moment of your time to just invest in you. Last week, I shared with you one of the early church fathers, Ignatius, and just shared about his life and hope that that was an encouragement to you. Wanted to take another one of John the Apostle, the disciple of Christ, another one of his disciples. Last week we saw where Ignatius was one who was discipled by John, but there was also another one that was discipled by John as well. His name was Polycarp. Probably you have heard that. I know when we went through Revelation, his name was brought up because he was the bishop at the church in Smyrna. So there in Asia Minor, in modern-day Turkey, Polycarp was the bishop there. And just to give you a little bit of background about him, he was born in around AD 70, so about the same year that the temple in Jerusalem is being destroyed is the year that Polycarp is born. So he was younger, kind of a younger protege, if you will, of John and of Ignatius there. But Polycarp, he was one who wrote two churches. They were letters that were circulated to the churches there in Asia Minor as well. And he had a particular letter that was circulated that was called the Martyrdom of Polycarp. Very, very famous. At age 86, he was considered by Rome to be an enemy of the state. Now, Caesar himself made sure that Polycarp would be arrested. So Polycarp was one very well known in that day and age, and one in which obviously Caesar was well acquainted with. Well, upon hearing that he was considered an enemy of the state, Polycarp fled for his life, tried to hide out, tried to get away. Well, obviously the Roman soldiers were pursuing him. They were hard after him. Polycarp ended up hiding in a building within a large estate. He found this large estate of someone he knew and hid in this particular building, trying to get away. Well, the Roman soldiers eventually came. They found him hiding in this building. Well, obviously these soldiers had been pursuing him for several days, and they were tired. They were hungry. Well, interestingly enough, Polycarp, upon seeing this and witnessing this and having such a love for even his pursuers, asked and requested that the master, the owner of this estate, that he would feed the soldiers. And he did that very thing. He fed them, gave them food. After they ate, they arrested Polycarp, took him back to Rome. And so as he is there and facing his scheduled execution there, he is brought into one of these great amphitheaters. So it's kind of like a big semicircle of seating, just this great amphitheater there. And he is brought into this place. And there behind him are lined up all of these various Christians that have been arrested as well. These Christians have been bruised. They look emaciated from lack of hunger or just lack of food, and they have been shackled. They've been battered and beaten. All right, they're just a mangled group of people, these believers standing there. And so they bring Polycarp front and center in this huge amphitheater, all these people watching, and they tell Polycarp that, hey, your life can be spared if you will look at these Christians and say these words, away with the atheists. Now you're thinking, wait, these are Christians. What's going on there? Well, the reason that they were accused of being atheists is because Christians, as we all do, we deny the other gods, any other gods that are out there. And so obviously Rome was full of gods, false gods. And so the Christians were the ones who were saying that these were not real gods. They would not bow down and worship to them. And so therefore they were considered atheists because they wouldn't believe in these other gods and they wouldn't recant their faith in that. Well, obviously, as you can imagine, Polycarp, being a great man of God that he was, said these words in that amphitheater. He says, "How then can I blaspheme my King and Savior? You threaten me with a fire that burns for a season, and after a little while is quenched. But you are ignorant of the fire of everlasting punishment that is prepared for the wicked." Wow. What incredible courage and what boldness to proclaim those words. Well, long and short of it is, Polycarp ended up being burned at the stake, even pierced with a sword because they just wanted to make sure he was dead. And so but it's interesting, before he even said those words, that he looked to the crowd. He didn't turn and look to the Christians, but he turned and looked to the crowd there before he was even burned to the stake. And he pointed his finger at everyone, going up and down rows and pointing his finger. And at that point, he said, "Away with the atheists." And that's when they burned him at the stake. So, boy, what a wonderful, encouraging reminder to us, again, that Christ is worth it. He is our greatest treasure, just as we saw that last week with Ignatius. The same is true with Polycarp. May we be people who fall along those same lines. I don't pray that any of us have to be burned at the stake, but may we be willing to do it if it were ever asked of us and God ever ordained that for us. But we're not in that situation now. My encouragement to you, church family, is be bold, be courageous, proclaim the good news of the gospel now, while times are still fairly simple, fairly easy to proclaim the gospel. May we not cower in fear, but may we share the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so may God be glorified through us. May you just be courageous as you go out into the world this week. And I look forward, until then, to see you on Sunday, God willing. So we love you. God bless.